Welcome back to Rosabel Unscripted, the podcast where we dive into real, unfiltered conversations about personal growth, mental and emotional health, healing, and living with more intention and peace. I'm your host, Rosabel Sofil, and today I am thrilled to have a truly inspiring guest. Her name is Debbie Simmons. She is the CEO and founder of Anchor Point. She's a keynote speaker, an author, a leadership strategist, and she's also known as the legacy architect. Debbie guides high capacity leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, and driven individuals from chasing success into building true significance and lives of lasting impact. Her work centers on what she calls architecture of trust, the powerful idea that you or where you place your trust shapes both your success and the legacy that you leave behind. So today I am honored to have you here, Debbie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here with you guys today.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your work and what is Debbie Simmons all about?
Well, sure. I'll give you just a real quick highlight. I get a lot of wonderful titles, like you said, but I am a wife. I'm a mom of 9 adopted children, and I'm a lolly of 15 grandchildren. And then in my free time, I get to be CEO of a nonprofit that I started 15 years ago that impacts thousands. And then, like you said, I'm venturing over into leadership development, training, looking at kind of this concept of the architecture of trust and the structure of the organizations that you build must build trust, and your organizations can only move as fast as your structure really allows. And so this is where trust is a very fun underlying foundational piece of what we must do to be successful. And a lot of times we don't think about that. We think about it just being kind of relational. So it's been fun to be in this space and to talk with CEOs and see it kind of resonate with them from that perspective to go, oh, that's the piece I missed. So that's what I get to do.
That's awesome. So, for what I understand, your message talks a lot about how we weren't designed to just pursue success, but also we were created to leave a legacy behind. So, tell us specifically, someone was to ask you, I know you mentioned that you work with CEOs and entrepreneurs, but I want you to tell me a little bit more about what is your ideal client and who is the people that you actually talk to on a daily basis?
Yeah. So the people that really I resonate with the most are, people who have been in the trenches like me and who have built things from scratch and now have multi-million-dollar businesses. And they're going, okay, one day it doesn't need to all keep landing on my desk, right? It needs to be where I can get out of my organization, maybe retire one day, leave a standing organization that can begin to still be impacting people even long after I'm done. So generally, it's a CEO, executive director. A lot of times, a founder is a person that's going, oh my gosh, why does it all seem to land right here? And I'm like going, it's because your structure's not working for you. You are the stopgap measure, and you can't do legacy that way.
Wow, that's interesting. I want to know what got you into this particularly. What is it that you like the most about doing what you do?
In this arena, from a coaching perspective, what I love to do is help them see that there is a way to make their life as a CEO executive better, and it will make the quality of life for their employees better, and it will sustain the organization. So getting to turn on light bulbs for people, for me, as I was developing this and discovering it over time and leading my organization, I was like, that's what's happening. And if I can, a lot of times, if we can just name it, then we can tame it. But if I can't figure out, like, put my finger on it exactly, it's like I keep trying different things, but it's not getting the change that I want. And so this is the part that I love is when, CEOs and executives go, ah, that's it. That's what I
The,
was meant. And
the
that gives
aha moment.
so, yeah, the aha moment. That's what I love. And I love for them to get that because once we get that, we're generally high level executives. We've done lots of things. We know how to get things done. We know how to do things once we can figure out what the mountain is that we're trying to climb. And so they don't need a lot of help. It's just that aha moment that they need to be able to refocus and go, I can do this. I can figure out how to make this happen.
And Debbie, do you also talk about trust leaks? Perhaps those subtle ways where trust breaks down, like overthinking, people pleasing, even burnout, you mentioned it, and or people, you're trying to control everything. Can you
Mhm.
walk us through some of the most common ones you've seen in high capacity leaders and what should they prioritize?
Sure. So let's focus on it from two different perspectives. Okay. When we talk about from an organization, when we're looking at the organization and we talk about trust leaks, it leaks one of three places. It leaks in leadership alignment, decision clarity, or execution reliability. And that means that our leaders aren't completely aligned. And when they go out, then the message just gets spread out and gets so off. This group might be over here, and then the other one might be over here because the leaders were leading differently, right? So we do need that leadership alignment where they are 100% in sync on what the highest priorities are, what are we doing, and how are we going to do it. The next place that it leaks in an organization is decision clarity. How are decisions made? Are decisions pushed down as far as they can be in the organization with the appropriate reporting or documentation? Or are all decisions coming back to the CEO's desk and everybody is waiting around and we're losing speed because decisions, we don't know how to get decisions made? And then the last is execution reliability, and that focuses on your systems. Do your systems support getting the actions done and do they self correct? And so that you can keep the engine running. So that's when we look at it from an organization. For an individual, the best way that we know that trust is leaking is what happens when you are personally under pressure. You might say, oh, I believe, like for me, I trust Jesus or something like that. And then pressure goes up, and what do? I want to control everything. Right. And so I'm like, I'm controlling this and I'm going to get this under control. So control is definitely one, hustle is another. And CEOs and executives are wonderful for hustling their way to the top. And then your organization can't continue growing if I'm going to kill myself hustling. Right. We might be a person who goes silent. We might be a person who is looking for what others are saying or people pleasing. Those are some of the most common ones. And what we need to understand about it from a personal level is that these are, I like to tell people there's no condemnation in anything when we analyze something. We just go, oh, Debbie likes to control. Okay. Well, Debbie likes to control because early in her life, as a survival mechanism, she learned that she had to control things. So my trust goes in my control. So what could I change in the way I do things so that my system works better and I don't have to default to control? Because when I default to control, I might not be that nice. It's fine if it's a, catastrophe and an emergency and we have to do, but it shouldn't be my default just because the pressure went up a little bit. And so that's the two different ways from an organizational and a personal kind of perspective.
Debbie, I find this talk so, so, so interesting in so many ways. A lot of times we see things in the surface, but we don't know exactly what goes on, what goes deep at the level of, like you say, organizations and even individuals inside
Mhm.
those organizations, right? And early on, out of camera, you asked me about my show, what most resonates with my audience. I like to believe, and I believe very much that one of the main reasons my audience, they love to watch the show is because, as the title says, Rosabel Unscripted, we're very unscripted. And sometimes I wonder because in this show, we talk a little bit about everything, but I don't know if you know this about me. I work in neurology. I'm a nurse practitioner. And I'm one of those who believe that when we, the individuals, we're under whether it's chronic stress,
Mhm.
pressure, all those things do affect our not only our to-do list, they affect our nervous system. And that is where I tied like, oh wow, you have a podcast, you talk about trauma, you talk about that. You see how this is what I try to tell people, like, what does leadership has to do with trauma? It's a
Yeah.
circle. It's how
Mhm.
impacts decision making, identity, relationships, there's psychology involved. I mean, there's a lot, And then when we begin to learn how this ongoing pressure shows up in these areas and what are you are bringing here, it's like what I call practical everyday steps that listeners can take right now to restabilize, to regulate?
I think this is a great example of it. Like, I am not only am I a control girl, I'm a hustle girl, right? And so that's on an individual level. That's great until I can't show up 100%. And
Exactly.
all of us can't show up 100% all the time, right? And so that's why the systems that are around us are so important. So I'll just give you an example. 5 years ago, I was hustling myself out of a vehicle and talking and doing something else, and I shut the truck door and it tore a big hole in my leg and totally took me out, immune failure, everything. It took me a year to get that wound healed. And so here I was showing up 100%. The next day, there ain't no more 100%, right? I got to figure out how to get my leg healthy. And then it was another 4 years to reestablish kind of my health from that perspective. And the truth is that that could have easily killed me and not allowed me to do the things that I needed to do in the nonprofit and different things like that. And so this is why it's important. So for people, I go, don't have a life threatening thing like I did. Just learn from my situation that that's not good. So, and that's
Exactly.
the exact thing you're talking about is that I just couldn't show up 100% anymore, right? And when I couldn't, then, oh my gosh, did we see where some weaknesses were in our organization? And, the great thing is it allowed us to grow and fix those things so that that's not a problem in the future. But that's a terrible way to have to learn, you
And
know?
the other thing is the world goes on. Whether it's amazing. The systems go in place, people are in jobs, then they leave for whatever reason, because again, sometimes
Mhm.
something unexpected situations and the world moves on and we have to accommodate and kind of grow with it because we are living at very fast pace moments. But you also, I believe your approach weaves in faith, healing in a grounded, non performative way. It's about real resilience, not performance. So tell me, how can you anchor those beliefs in daily practices, support emotional regulation, especially when someone's feeling like overwhelmed or disconnected from their sense of self?
Sure. Okay. First of all, I would say, hey, these principles that we're talking about, they're good whether you believe in any kind of faith or not. So you can make lots of strides forward with these. If you add on the layer of faith, I believe that it just takes it to the whole next level because I believe that there is a lot of healing in us that needs to happen. One of the things that I get to work with on the anchor point side is I get to work with families that work with kids with trauma, and it's really interesting because I work with the parents. And with the parents, what I find is there's a lot of woundedness walking around. And I'm going, the reason you're getting so lit up at your kid is because they're poking at your woundedness. And if you'll deal with your woundedness, then you can stay fully present with your child. And we call it, interestingly enough, and this is just a fun way to do it, is we call it entering into our shark waters. Okay, so my kid gets me all excited and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Jaws is coming and they are going to eat me if I don't eat them first." And then I lose it, then the kid loses it more, then I lose it more, and it's bad for everyone. Same thing can happen with employees too, right? In our lives. And so what I know is when I start feeling, generally for me, I feel it in my chest when the pressure goes up and I start feeling like I'm moving toward the edge of something, the chest is where I notice it. I tell people, you notice this stuff in your body if you'll just start looking. And I also tell them, God's good enough that He's going to give you multiple opportunities to find it. And so you'll find it eventually. And so I know when I start feeling pressure in my chest, that I'm moving into an area of kind of shark waters. And I just simply, at that point, if I will state, oh, those are my shark waters, that keeps me in my prefrontal cortex, which is where I think, not my amygdala, which is all emotional. And I have a shot at making it through that pressure situation without losing it. Right. And then I can go outside of the pressure cooker situation. I can go either do counseling or prayer or whatever I need to do to really go, okay, what is it about that situation that was getting me excited? What do I need to learn? What are we trying to show me? And generally, you'll find that that goes back to an earlier memory in your life where you struggled with something and you found a way to survive. And so you became maladaptive at that point. So, a good example of that is I said, I love control. Well, you know why I'm a control freak? Is because I held my boys as they died in my arms and I couldn't save them. Okay. And with my quads. And so that means I need to control things because that was very hard. I don't want to experience that again, but I know that that's not healthy. The challenge was I did go through a hard time. It did give me purpose. My boys are still part of my legacy. So that's all good, but I can't react that way all the time. And so I need to spend time working on me. So I think sometimes as a key leader, people do what they see us do, and so I need to be healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of those things so that it trickles down in my organization. And so those are just some ways that I've incorporated it in my life and how I teach others to do that as they walk through life.
That is beautiful. And that I believe that is true for all of us, no matter whether we're in a leadership position or we're just somebody
Sure.
who's not necessarily in leadership position, where we need to learn how to take care of ourselves first in order
Mhm.
to be able to give, because we cannot be giving from an empty or coming from an empty place or empty vessel. And the truth is, at least this is a truth I believe, that the world is not going to pour anything on you. You have to exactly. If
Yeah.
nothing else, there'll be a lot of noise, there'll be a lot of confusion, there's a lot of craziness out there. You need to be able to close your eyes,
Yeah.
and sit with yourself or whatever is uncomfortable. Like you mentioned, sometimes even just sitting and breathing, you're right, we can definitely find out what's bothering us.
Well,
And
the really cool thing I think about is in this last few years is something that God is having me do is sit still more. And I'm like, I want to run do this stuff. And he's like, just stay and rest and everything. And it's been so interesting to carve that quiet space out. I have gotten so much good work done because I'm able to think, and so it just speaks to how we run at 100 miles an hour, and we just need to stop. That's why somebody said one of my big deals is I want us to all leave legacies. And so I say to leave a legacy, you have to live your legacy now. And people go, "Well, how do you help people do that?" And the answer is I make them stop and think about it. Because they're going at such a fast pace, they never even think, and then before you know it, the end of your life's here, and it's whatever it is, and if you wanna craft it, then you gotta stop, and just stopping disrupts everything, and then you can go, "Okay, what is it I wanna be about, and how do I wanna impact people, and what am I uniquely here to do that only I can do, and the world will miss it if I don't do it." And if we all find that spot, the world will be a lot better place.
David, you also offer what I believe is called the Vision Day Experience, a private environment for leaders to reset and architect their next chapter. And
Mhm.
you also have a book, The Heart of Legacy.
Yeah. So I do vision days very, very much for the point of what is it that I want to do with my life? Or like if you're a CEO, executive person that's going, there could be more. I've hit all the benchmarks, I've done all the things, and I'm successful. And internally, I just feel like there's more, and I don't know how to work my way through that. That is the point of Vision Day, is to process those things and come up with a plan for the next, 18 to 24 months that will set you on a course to figure that out and then also become the impact player that you need to be in that. And for some of us, that's changing jobs. For other ones, it's just a different intention on how we go about life and everything. And it's just such a great refresher for people to be able to take the time. have someone look at your situation and work with you that's not in your day to day life is just powerful. And we all need coaches and people that will encourage us that way. And the book is called The Heart of Legacy, and it is free for all of your listeners. They literally need to just go to theheartoflegacy.com. My story and kind of walking through the trenches and how I started the nonprofit and where it is now. But also in the very center, it is the thing that I think your listeners would like the most. And that is, how do we become people who are focused, faithful, and fearless? And inside of it, there is wonderful next steps or things to think about to help you move along that path in your life to be an impact player. And for some of us, that's, you know, picking ourselves up from wounded situations. And for other us, we're just stalled somewhere. And for some of us, we're excelling, but there's still pieces in there that apply to all of us. And that's why I love that book in particular, because it's such a great tool to give to people.
Thank you so much for that. I'm sure the listeners will appreciate that very much. And I'm already thinking I'll grab it and read it because I love reading.
Good.
Debbie, what do you hope our listeners take away from today's episode?
I would hope that one, they got an aha moment of, I'm trusting something. And a lot of ground gets gained by just us being aware and thinking about the next time we're under pressure. And when we have awareness, when we know something, it's hard to unknow it. And so they can begin to make the changes. And it's not huge changes that we need to make because we're on a journey, but it's little changes. And then guess what? The pressure will go up again and you'll see if your new process works or if you need to adjust it more. And so I go, hey, every day is a new day and we're going to learn and we're going to grow and we just want to get better on this journey. So hopefully they got the aha and we'll figure out what they really trust. I
That's wonderful. Debbie, is there anything I have not asked you that you really want to let our audience know?
think I would say, hey, keep going, keep doing the next best thing because you'll get there. Just keep doing the little steps toward the goals that you have. And before you know it, you'll be there. Don't try and think about the big end of the thing. Just do the next best thing. And that is how we walk through challenging or grief situations and how we walk towards success. It's just small steps in the right direction over a long period of time.
That is powerful right there. I believe this is such a rich, grounding conversation. I want to thank you for sharing the frameworks and your heart and the wisdom so openly. Even in the very few nuggets that you're giving us, little tools
Yep.
to shift from that pressure to peace and from success to that legacy that matters. I just want to tell the audience out there, like if today's episode had resonated with you, if you're navigating stress, burned out, big life shift, or you just want more clarity in your decisions, I'll definitely encourage you to connect with Debbie directly. Head to her website, thedebbiesimmons.com, and you can learn more about her work, grab her book, The Heart of Legacy, perhaps explore the vision, even the day experience, or just reach out, right? They can also follow up with you on social media, Instagram, maybe,
Mhm.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. So if they go to thedebbieSimmons.com, it has all of the social media handles. My girls take care of that. And I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, but they're there. So they're good
That's
for you.
awesome. Yes, I want to thank everybody and thank you, Debbie. Thank you for turning into Rosabel Unscripted. Again, if this episode helped you, I want you to share it with someone who needs it. And that reminder that you're not broken, you are just ready to reinforce that foundation. Subscribe, leave a review, and I'll see you next time for more real conversations that helps us heal and grow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Debbie.